Hans Wormhat. This is a video about phonies, and specifically Jesus Christ talking about phonies. And I want to start with the first line from the Beatitudes. I think that this is actually a really good way to test the spirits. And yeah, we are supposed to do that. We're supposed to test the spirits. Iron sharpens iron. A plastic Christian is somebody that's going to come out of the woodworks. Don't you judge me. You can't judge me. And then they'll throw out the verse about judge, lest not ye be judged. Which, if you read the context, it's more about don't be a hypocrite. It's not that we can never pass judgment on anybody. It's just that you better not be a hypocrite. Don't tell people to act a certain way if you yourself act that way. Don't be overly judgmental on people with a certain addiction if you have some other sort of addiction. Things like that. If you're going to be dishing out judgment, you better make sure that you've already dealt with this yourself and fully repented and ceased from doing that activity. So let's just begin with this, because I think it's a really important concept. Rich in spirit versus poor in spirit. And so the first line of the Beatitudes are full of these statements that were just very impactful, shocking people. This first line from the Beatitudes really set the tone and should have just shocked everybody in the audience. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. In this time period, the people strongly believed, even today, they strongly believed that if you had a lot of money, if you had a lot of power, if you had a lot of friends, everybody loved you, that meant that you were loved by God, and of course you're going to heaven. Look at how rich you are. God wouldn't have blessed you with all these riches if you weren't going to heaven. That's the kind of attitude that these people had. Well, how could you possibly get all this power and be so high up in the church but not be going to heaven? That's the type of bad logic that these people would use. So Jesus comes and says the complete opposite. Blessed are the poor in spirit. So the fact that Jesus is saying poor in spirit, that means that there's also a notion of a rich in spirit. And just contrast those two things in your mind. What does it mean to be poor in spirit? What does it mean to be rich in spirit? Why are the poor in spirit the ones that are blessed? Theirs is the kingdom of heaven, not the rich in spirit. So when I think of rich in spirit, I think of the exact type of people that Jesus was constantly talking down upon. People that wear long robes, and they love greetings in marketplaces, and they love talking about how much they're fasting. And you see these people today all the time that very rich in spirit. I think of like a really rich dessert where it can taste good. You're eating a really, think of like the most rich chocolate cake. It can taste fantastic, but you have one little bite of it and that's it. You can't eat any more. It's like the Christians that they come up to you and it's like the words that are coming out of their mouth are fine because the things that they're saying are praising God, talking about good things, but it's like after 10 seconds of being around them, you're like, okay, that's enough. I can't do any more. But day in, day out, they're just oozing this rich spirit. And God wants us to be humble. And we're supposed to be humble. We're not supposed to be sitting here bragging. That's just the main thing, is that these phony plastic Christians, they brag about their righteousness level, basically. They love to brag about how much they're praying and about, bragging about how much, allegedly, bragging about how much Jesus is helping their lives and all of these things. Which, again, think of it like a really rich dessert. It still can taste good, but it's like you can't eat a whole slice of a really, really rich chocolate cake. You eat one piece and that's it. Or one bite and that's it. That's all you can handle. Same thing with just the way that these fake plastic Christians, just one of the sentences out of their mouth, it's like, okay, that's enough. I can't just keep listening to you going on and on. I don't know. I'm really bad about giving examples, but it's just the kind of fake fluff stuff that I think of when I think of just your average preacher. Oh, hello, brothers and sisters in Christ. I hope you're carrying your cross today. Yeah, I've been away for a few days praying and fasting and that kind of stuff. Keep it to yourself. You don't brag about that stuff. Blessed are the poor in spirit, not the rich in spirit. And then I just want to read this whole chapter, because this whole chapter is telling you how to identify phonies. And these phonies are all around you. Churches are full of phonies, just like back in the day. No thing new under the sun. Just like in Jesus' time, Jesus went into the temples and was bad-mouthing, basically, talking down on all these people because they're phonies and nothing new. They're still today. The people in the churches are phonies. There might be a few legitimate followers scattered here and there, but the bulk of the people in modern churches are phonies. So Matthew chapter 23, Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. Yeah, a lot of these people, they can talk the talk. They'll talk to you about how you have to be reborn and Jesus is going to change your life and the only way to get saved is through Jesus. They will say things that are true, but their actions, the fact that they're Orange 33 club members, the fact that they're secret keepers, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know all these people, but just to give an example, we hear many stories in the media about these people who present as being pious, pastors, people working in the Catholic Church, of course, and then it comes out later that they're sexual abusers, they're pedophiles, they're stealing money to buy luxury goods. Yeah, they can talk the talk, but that doesn't mean anything. And more so than that, you need to be very weary of people that do that too much. People that talk the talk too well. That everything out of their mouth, every single time you meet them, they're just so rich in spirit, just oozing this phony plastic spirituality. A big problem for me that I have, and something that I notice, is where is your spirituality coming from? Is the way that you're acting because you're following the things that Jesus said? Or is the way that you're acting because you're mimicking, you're copying what you think you should do because you've watched TV and you've listened to pastors go on and on with all this hot air? So to me, that's just a really easy way to spot a phony. Does it seem like you're interacting with somebody who's putting on a play? Oh, I've seen before these people that claim to be these very religious people, and they talk like this, and they say things like this, and I've heard them use this statement before, so I'm going to go do that. Or is this person just strictly following Jesus Christ and the 10 Commandments? That's just the biggest thing. Does it seem like you're listening to a phony? Somebody who is just, reading a script that maybe they've heard somebody else say before? Or do they seem like just a real person who happens to know that Jesus Christ is the truth? Well, hopefully I explained that well. So let's just keep going. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge the borders of their garments. And you actually see churches, they will come in and specifically find verses and kind of run with it. And so, like the long robes things. Just think of how many religions, even religions that claim to follow Jesus Christ, they wear long robes, even though Jesus talks down upon that kind of stuff. The enlarging the borders of their garments. A lot of their garments, I'm sure, have like large piping on the borders of it. They'll go out of their way to go against what Jesus says. And love the uppermost rooms at feasts, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But be ye not called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. There's not supposed to be a church hierarchy. Why does a church hierarchy exist? Just look here. You're not supposed to be setting levels up. There's not supposed to be people with titles, and especially not with religious titles. Jesus Christ is King of Kings. We don't have a hierarchy besides that. And so, even for somebody to take on that position, it shows that they don't understand the word and they don't understand the message. You should be humble in spirit. You should say, no, don't call me pastor. I'm just a man who follows Jesus Christ, and I like to talk about the word. Nobody's job should be preaching the word, period. Okay, and call no man your father upon the earth. So what do the Catholics do? They call people fathers. Do they not read their Bible? Have they never opened their Bible to this page? How does Catholicism even exist when this exists in the Bible? Like, just walk up to any Catholic. Okay, but what is this? But then again, you know, the Bible talks about don't follow the way of the pagans and cut down trees. And what do you see most Christian churches doing? Pagan stuff, putting giant trees inside their church. It's ridiculous. Okay, keep going on. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. We have master's degrees, and masons are always calling one another masters. I'm sure you've seen, like, master gardener sale, master this, master that, master chef. They do these things to directly go against the Bible. The Bible tells us not to call one another master, so they go crazy with it. Master mason. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. And especially when it comes to spiritual stuff. Just one of the simplest ways to find a phony is it's like they brag about their religiousness. And you're supposed to keep it to yourself, and you're supposed to be humble. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. And I think that this is interesting. And I think that this goes into the ones that are gatekeeping knowledge. Think of how many of these Orange 33 religious people, they know the earth is flat, they know it's unmoving, they know outer space is fake, they know cavemen are fake, but that's what they push. And I think that they fall into this category. They're shutting up the kingdom of heaven against men because they're telling a bunch of lies to take people away from God, and they're keeping those truths to themselves. Gatekeepers. They're gatekeeping knowledge that they know will bring people to God. And that's one of the ways that they shut the door to other people, because they're gatekeeping truth. And what they do is they pretend to be Christian, and then what they're doing is they're just leading the sheep away. But of course, the Bible tells us to don't trust men. Go to the source. You do not need to go to some brick and mortar church to listen to some human interpret the word for you. You don't. You need to go to Jesus Christ's words yourself and read them and interpret them yourself. Nobody on earth can claim to, be a master of the word. It's just another appeal to authority. The same way that when you start to doubt science, people come in, well, you don't have a PhD in this, you don't have a PhD in astrophysics, therefore your opinions are invalid. People act the same exact way about religion. Oh, well, what, you're not a pastor? As if a title somehow makes you imperfect. Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. Something about me, I've just always known people that make a grand display of prayer. I'm not okay with that. It should be private. I believe the more private your prayer is, the more powerful it's going to be. Yeah, if you want to get other people praying and helping you out, I think that's fine, but it doesn't need to be a big public display. And think of the way that churches go. There's like one main person that is always leading these prayers over and over. Why? Are they magical that their prayers are better and that they should know how to tell other people to pray? You don't know who they're praying to. That's just a big thing. The people who get really high up in these organizations, these religious organizations, they're probably Luciferian. They're probably praying to Satan, and they're probably getting their congregation to go along with them. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. This just makes me think of all those Christian people going to Africa and stuff to proselytize. All over Earth, they prop up their 501c3. I mean, I'm sure that's not the same everywhere, but yeah, they've compassed the entire Earth, and they've projected their plastic Christianity on everybody. There you go. I mean, it is what it is. Woe unto you, ye blind guides, which say, whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing, but whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. Ye fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctifieth the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing, but whosoever sweareth by the gift that is upon it, he is guilty. So I'm not an expert on this stuff. This goes more into Old Testament type ideas, I think, with sacrificing and praying upon altars and stuff. It's not something that I consider myself very knowledgeable about, so I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! I mean, just notice how often Jesus talked about hypocrites. It's phonies. The whole idea of the book Catcher in the Rye, it's surrounded by phonies. Phonies, hypocrites, they're everywhere. For you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. Look at the first thing that Jesus says here. Judgment. Judgment. A plastic Christian is like, you're not allowed to say anything that hurts anybody's feelings. We are supposed to judge. Judgment is important. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say besides it's plastic phony Christians that are the ones that say you're not allowed to judge anybody for anything ever. Just make sure you're not being a hypocrite. Mercy and faith. And of course, it's one thing to judge somebody, and then it's another thing to like hold a bunch of anger and animosity against people and say evil things about them. Oh, I want you, these evil people should burn in hell. No, I mean, point out people's shortcomings and then God bless you, all my enemies. Jesus told us to bless our enemies, so just do it. And I pray they can turn their life around and leave their Orange 33 cult and start following real Jesus. Jesus' words. Listen to his words. Don't listen to what some pastor told you, because they're mostly garbage. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. And so just here, think about how, I don't go to church, I never really went to church, but people talk all the time about how paying your tithing is something that they bring up and up and up. They constantly talk about tithing in church. Did Jesus constantly talk about tithing? No. Look, here's an instance where Jesus actually talks down on tithing. Jesus says, you all are just way obsessed with showing how pious you are by, oh, look how much mint I gave to tithing. Look how much. And so here's actually an interesting thing about tithing. It used to be about food. It has nothing to do with money, with paper money. Anyways, Jesus is saying it's not about showing how pious you are by doing these hollow deeds, meaningless, shallow. You're supposed to, it's more than that. It's spiritual. It's not physical. We're supposed to reject these things of the flesh. Ye blind guides, which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. I think that's interesting. I don't really know what it means, but it's very interesting. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. A lot of inverts are really OCD cleanliness stuff, and yeah. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones, and of all uncleanness. And yeah, a lot of these people are just really good at putting on masks. People wear masks. And a lot of Christians wear masks. They pretend to be super happy, and they pretend that Jesus makes their life the most amazing, worry-free thing ever, and they pretend that, once they follow Jesus, everything is just so amazing. And within, they're just trembling, horribly depressed, and yeah, that's phony. That's totally phony to be just utterly depressed, but then on the outside pretend that everything is okay and that Jesus makes your life the most amazing thing ever. I just know so many Christians like this, that ye shall know them by their fruits. They act in a certain way. And I'm not saying that those people are evil necessarily, but they are a phony. And maybe it's just because they've drinking the tainted Kool-Aid of plastic Christianity, thinking that talking in a certain way is going to make you saved. That being rich in spirit is the way to salvation. And it's not. Meekness. You need to be meek and humble. And especially about faith. Jesus doesn't like people that try to make themselves out to be the most holy people. And I mean, I just often think about the times where Jesus would heal people and he would tell them, don't tell anybody about this. Just go do your regular sacrifices and that's the end of it. Jesus was even humble about his own miracles. So we should be very humble. We should follow Jesus. Do what he did. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! And I'll just say here, Jesus told us that if we want to go to heaven, we need to be better than the scribes and the Pharisees. And so pay attention to when Jesus describes the scribes and the Pharisees, because that's behavior that you need to avoid. Because if you want to go to heaven, you need to be better than these people. Because ye build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore ye be witness unto yourselves that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. I think that's... Jesus is really... There were so many things that Jesus was saying that it puts into context when you read about how the groups of these people would get together and talk about trying to get him in trouble so that they could stone him, because Jesus kept saying things that he was burning these people so bad. And I just want to read it again. And say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. And Jesus is saying, well, there you go. You just admitted that you're the sons of the people that killed the prophets. Wherefore ye be witness unto yourselves that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell? Jesus was not lovey-dovey in the fact that he was telling everybody that everybody's going to be saved. And yet that's what plastic Christianity sells. Plastic Christianity sells salvation is the easiest thing ever. You just got to come to church every Sunday and give us your money and believe in Jesus. And that's fake. That's not real. That's not the gospel. You need to repent, and you need to love God more than anything. You need to be better than the scribes and the Pharisees. The scribes and the Pharisees, they believed in God, but they were big phonies. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall ye scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come unto this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. The Bible actually has a lot of mentions of God's children being scattered, and evil people, they really do put a lot of effort into keeping natural people away from one another, and they'll start rumors to get natural people to not like one another. They really do try to separate the sheep out from one another, because they know that it's very powerful when natural people get together, real followers of Jesus get together. So phonies like to act as a wedge, and I've heard so many stories about the high up people in churches just being terrible gossipers and causing all sorts of drama. And it's because of this. They don't want all of the hens together, working together. They try to spread us all out. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate, for I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. I'll just say here, I don't believe anybody that says that Jesus talks to them in their dreams. I don't believe anybody that says that they've heard voices of God speaking to them. If anybody actually has heard a voice like that, I believe it's demonic in nature. I do believe that Jesus is not directly influencing with our reality in the same way of times past, where God was physically present in the form of a light or a cloud, and performing lots of physical miracles that you could see. I just don't think it works like that anymore. And yeah, it'll all change in a blink of an eye when Jesus comes back. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Jesus really didn't like phonies.